Hey everybody, welcome back. It is so nice to see you, to be with you here today. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are joining us from. My name is Barton. I'm a chef, author, proud husband, father of two great little boys. We live here on the delicious, ragged, jagged coast of Maine, where I am joining you from today in my home kitchen. And we've got a really fun show today with Kazumi. And she is going to educate us about sushi, something that I know actually very little about. Though I am a seafood expert and have spent my entire career thinking about working with and just contemplating all seafood. Well, there goes my phone off the back of that. So I'm just going to do that. I'm just going to keep talking while I do that. But hey, everybody. So, hey. I'm back. There you go. A little bit of technical difficulty, but why not? Excuse me here for a second. Hey. So anyway, sushi is the topic at hand today, but also just Japanese cuisine at large. So any questions that you've got, please check out the text box over on the right-hand side of your screen. This is ridiculous that I'm doing this, but I've got brand new technology that... by technology, I mean a brand new camera holder. Hey, look at that. We're back. Okay. Sorry about that, folks. So anyway, apologies. Sushi is something that I have not really known much about, simply because I have so much respect for it, and because it's a tradition that has there's so much elegance to it. There's so much finesse and detail and so much culture behind it. And ritual even, that really just out of respect for the cuisine itself, I've just enjoyed it. Cooked for me or made for me by masters, and I'm so excited to have Kazumi Wickenkamp join us today. She is from the Japanese Cuisine Academy, a friend to Ruby. She also has her own online courses, and she's going to be sharing some of that with us today. So just a few housekeeping things over there on the right-hand side of the screen. As I was saying, you have the question box. Anything you want to ask about sushi, Japanese cuisine, which we'll be talking about at large today, or anything else, unicorns, tilapia, the best way to plant flower bulbs, whatever you got, throw the questions in there on the right-hand side. If there are any questions that you particularly like that someone else has asked, click that heart icon right next to it, and it will be voted up in the queue to make sure that we get to it. So any of you who have joined us before know that I like to start any of these events off with a bit of gratitude, because ultimately the most important ingredient in anything that we cook is gratitude, is love. Food is an act of kindness, and the world needs a lot more of that. So the best way to ensure that you are going to create a delicious meal is to start off by saying what you are thankful for. And today I am thankful for abundance. It is a word that in our world these days, it can be too easy to lose sight of with all the bad news and the reckonings that we need to be having. And well, yeah, there's a lot of bad news out there, but the world is yet abundant, as proved by the bushels of tomatoes that I am inundated with. The only time you lock your doors in Maine is during tomato and zucchini season, and it is upon us, so beware. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kazumi. I'd like for you, my friend, to introduce yourself, just give us a little bit of background. I'd like for you also to tell us something that you're grateful for, and then take it away and show us what you got. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Barton. And hi, everybody. This is Kazumi. And then I'm right now sitting in Germany, the city called Cologne. I'm not sure how many people have heard of it, but it's a beautiful place. And I'm originally from Japan, a very, very small town. They very good seafood you can have every day. And then that's how I grew up. And then actually, I'm not a chef. And then my first career was a healthcare industry, and I was working for Johnson & Johnson or Eli Lilly. I studied life science and biology, so I was in the healthcare industry for many years. And then some years ago, I started living abroad. And as I started living abroad, I realized how Japanese cuisine is becoming the thing outside of Japan. The sushi, of course, that we are talking a lot about it today, but not just sushi, ramen, okonomiyaki, the izakaya, and all these things is happening right now. And then, but on the other hand, there is no places or programs for international chefs and cooks or the food enthusiasts like you guys don't have the good quality of Japanese cuisine program. And then I looked up online. I found something like Ruby or other online culinary classes for the Western cuisines. And I thought, why don't I do it for Japanese cuisine? So this is what I started 3 years ago. But because I'm not a chef, I found a few experienced, passionate, talented Japanese cuisine chefs in Europe. And then that's how I built the program for sushi and then other Japanese cuisine, which is what you're going to have see today.
For that. So, something you're grateful for. What you got?
Yeah, so the sushi is the very, very big thing in Japanese cuisine. And then today I wanted to talk about the Japanese cuisine and especially focusing on sushi because that's what everybody know about Japanese cuisine. And the question, what is sushi is it's really, really the fundamental question, and then to answer that, I can tackle in many different ways. But then if you think about the history that Barton said that it has a long history. Yes, it has a very, very long history. It has more than 10 years, the 1,000 years of history. More than 1,000 years ago, the sushi was very different from how you think about a sushi right now. It was preserved food. So Japan is surrounded by the ocean, so it has a lot of access to seafood. So if you get a lot of fish, and if you cannot eat within the few days, then you have to store it. But 1,000 years ago, there is no fridge. There is no way to store it more than a few days. So basically, they keep it as a preserved food. How they did it is they preserve. The fermenting it. They covering the raw fish covered with the cooked rice, and then leave it for months, sometimes even years. And then that's how they stored their fresh fish. And then by fermenting it, this lactic acid fermentation happens, and then that start tasting sour, sweet, and then that's how it started, and that's how the sushi started.
Wow, I had no idea about that. That is so cool. The preservation of fish is so interesting to me. Just as a scholar of, and student of seafood cuisines, we so often forget that seafood cuisine, up until very recently, was based on preserved seafood. Unless you lived right on the coast, or until the advent of railroads in America, at least, there was very little fresh fish. And we still have sort of these cultural relics of that. Like in America, we say, don't eat oysters in months without R in them, which is May, June, July, August. When it's very hot. But that's a great time to eat oysters, except if there's no refrigeration and they're on a horse-drawn cart going hundreds of miles inland. Don't eat them in the hot months. So that's really interesting about the lactic fermentation specifically. And there's a lot of fish that we still eat like that. Anchovies are probably the example that most people have had. So that is sushi. How is it? When did it evolve to be what we know of it, at least here in America, which is raw fish, but also vegetable preparations, all sorts of stuff. It's an interesting culinary creative palette for people to get creative. When did that evolution happen?
So because it has more than 1,000 year history, so it's a very, very long story how it evolves. But if I keep it short, I think it's around like 600 years ago, someone started using the vinegar. So because if you use the natural lactic acid fermentation process, it takes months and days and the months to create the taste, the sour taste. So someone started thinking, maybe we can use the vinegar to kind of replicate the taste. And then that became closer to what we know about what we know today. And then, but it was still a little bit different from what we know today. And then I think it was almost 200 years ago back then the Japan regime was called Edo, so like Edo era. That the era is called Edo. And then, like in that Edo era, their sushi evolved in a way that then the way we already know. So that back then, 200 years ago, it was pretty much similar to what we know today. So the rice bowls and then like the fish on top or like some rolls. So that's when the sushi became almost like their shape that we know today.
So when is sushi eaten in Japanese cuisine? I mean, it's only one small facet. I wouldn't say small facet, but it's only one aspect of a much larger cuisine. When is it eaten during the day? Is it eaten as an appetizer? Is it its own meal? Tell us about it, because in America, it's now available at gas stations, and you can go into a CVS and get sushi now. So any time of the day, it's a convenience food for us. Tell us about more sort of the ritual behind it.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting question and a very interesting point. So like when I first came to Europe, my boyfriend back then and then my husband now asked me, so like, and when do you eat sushi? And how often do you eat sushi? He asked. And then he asked me like every day or like every 2 days or something. And I was like, no, it's like sushi is something very special for us. We don't eat sushi for like an everyday lunch. Sushi is something like if you have something special, and then that's like a father says, okay, let's go to a sushi restaurant today because we have this like something to celebrate or something like that. So when I was small, for example, like that was something like that. Sushi is something special. If you have like an important guest, you order sushi from the sushi shop, and then you have like a platter of sushi, only sushi, not the other things. The sushi is such a special thing, so you don't pair with other things. That was how things were in the, like, let's say 20, 30 years ago. But nowadays, things are changing. If you go to convenience store in Japan, that's everywhere. It's like a gas station in the US. You can find $10 or $5 package of sushi, and then you can take it for lunch. So the things are changing, but then still the kind of respect and a special feeling towards sushi for Japanese is still there, I think.
Yeah. Well, to me, sushi is one of the best examples. Some people think that in American taste doesn't change, and that to me, I consider myself a seafood evangelist. It's my mission to get more people eating more seafood, and there's a great trepidation around seafood generally in America. But then people will tell me, it's like, I'm weird about seafood, but I love sushi. And just the fact that in America, the first sushi restaurant in America opened in LA in the late 60s, I believe. And then soon after, there was one in New York. And then sort of every cosmopolitan hub thereafter had a sushi, but it was very high end. It was very, not experimental cuisine, but it was very new for diners, in the way that we had restaurants like Trader Vic's and other things that were introducing us to cuisines that we considered just wild. And the fact that in America, seafood has gotten the sushi has become so ubiquitous now that it's literally in strip malls. You can buy it at Duane Reade and CVS and Whole Foods and anywhere else is astounding to me. So we've talked about sort of the history of it. We've talked about a bit of its role in Japanese cuisine. Let's get into the cooking of it. Or the making of it. And the first part of that is going to be, the rice, right? I mean, that to me is sort of the founding. It's what defines sushi to me in my mind. Also nigiri, and you're going to show us some of that. But if you would, can you just explain what we're going to dive into, and then you have some really great video content for us to see.
Yeah, thank you so much, Barton. Sorry, I disconnected for seconds, but then luckily internet is back, and then I'm happy to talk about.
I'm not hearing Kazumi. Is anyone else?
Yep. Yeah.
There we go.
Can you hear me now? Okay, great.
Yes, we can. Thanks.
Yeah. So I want to show. So earlier I said I kind of created the Japanese cuisine version of Ruby, and then I want to show you some part of it. And we have a long series of many different types of videos for the different part to cover the different part of sushi and then other Japanese cuisine is. So what you guys going to see today is really, really short clips of what we can offer. So hopefully you enjoy it. So first thing I want to talk about is rice. The most frequently asked question from our student is which rice I should buy. That's why I want to start with rice and which rice to buy, and then what's the what type of rice and then what kind of quality of rice do you have to buy. So that's what I want to talk about it. So Patrick, can you show me the table of types of rice? Yeah, great. So it has you can see 3 different types of rice: the long grain, medium grain, and the short grain. And then long grain is the type of rice that then basmati rice, jasmine rice, or Thai rice. So long and then fluffy and then dry, relatively dry rice. And then the medium grain as a short grain is most of Japanese rice is a short grain, and which is short grain. The grain itself is shorter, and then when you cook it, it's softer, moister, and then stickier. And then medium grain rice is somewhere in between. And then as you can see on the table, the short grain rice is best for sushi because of this moisture and then stickiness is perfect for sushi. And if you go to Asian shop or supermarket and then go to the rice section, you can find probably a few selection of sushi rice with the label saying sushi rice. And usually the sushi rice is short grain, but some of them is a medium grain. And it's not too bad, but then if you can choose, you could choose short grain because their composition of this the starch is perfect for the sushi. That's one thing you should know, the types of sushi rice. And then many people still struggle, okay, I understand the short grain is best for their sushi, but then I don't know which brand I should buy. Okay, we have the recommended brand of the sushi rice. This is what you can find on our course material. this is not all of the selections that we can recommend, but this is the 5 brands that then we can find that available for many part of almost all part of United States. So this is the sushi rice availability in the USA. If you don't know which one to buy, you could buy one of these, and then that you wouldn't get a poor result from that. And then many things that then our students do is actually they take the picture of the sushi rice or the package that they buy, what they are going to buy, and then send it to us and ask, hey, what do you think about this sushi? Could you recommend? So that's how we advise them as well, because everybody lives in a different part of either United States or the different part of the world, and then the accessibility to the ingredients is very, very different among our students who live everywhere in the US, in Europe, in the Asia. So that's how we support the students to find the best sushi rice and other ingredients.
It's awesome, and it's something that I think, well, it's taken American cuisine a long time, I think, to really pay attention to ingredients. And we've seen the explosion of and just bounty and diversity of products. If you go into a grocery store now, if you go into a grocery store 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you had apples were green and red, and neither of them were delicious. Ostensibly, what they were named. Lettuce meant iceberg. That's it. Now we have kale and arugula and salad mixes and mesclun, and you have 10 different kinds of apples at even the most modest grocery stores now. And that focus on ingredient, it makes sense that, of course, there's diversity in rice, too. It's not all the same, and of course it's going to be very different. So thank you for that that table. That was really, really helpful. So next up, why don't you dive into some of your content? So
then let's move into the more fun part. So it's a cooking part. So the next step, if you get the right ingredient, right rice, and then then what you next do is to cook. And then the cooking rice, how to wash actually before even cooking, how to wash, how to rinse, and how to drain, and how much water you should put in to cook the rice with is all mystery for many of our students, right? Because they watch so many different YouTube videos, they watch so many different blogs, and they get totally confused. Okay, which one I should follow? So we created many videos and then the text to explain that. But today we skipped that, and then one thing I want to stress here is it's very, very small, a series of small tips that you can learn only about cooking rice part. And then after you get rice cooked properly, then next thing you do is seasoning. Again, the seasoning is another art of technique. We have, of course, have the step-by-step, very detailed video. But then, sorry, again, within 1 hour session, it was impossible to fit everything. So next step is the rolling. And then before rolling, the most important part is spreading rice on nori seaweed. And many, many people ruin sushi grain here. So let's look at the video. Then you can see what I mean. And then the important tips the master chefs use, and then you can start doing it right away after you watch it. Please, Patrick, start the video, the spreading rice on nori.
Place a half-cut nori on a bamboo mat. The rough surface of the nori should be facing up. Take 100 grams of sushi rice and roll it to form a rice ball. Make it an oval or rectangular shape. This way, it's much easier to handle the rice. Position the tip of the rice ball in the center of the left edge of the nori. Now, with your left hand, use your fingers to gently press down the rice in the middle of the nori. At the same time, use your right hand to keep the shape and width of the rice ball. Dip your fingers into the teizu solution and spread the rice towards the upper end of the nori. Use your thumbs to push the rice upwards. Now the upper part of the nori is completely covered. You'll spread the rice towards the lower end of the nori in a rolling motion. Follow these 3 simple steps. Step 1. Rub both hands with the teizu solution. Place your left hand at the left end of the nori and spread the rice with your right hand. Step 2. Rub both your hands with the teizu solution again. Place your right hand at the right end of the nori and spread the rice with your left hand. Step 3. Dip your hands in the teizu solution once again. Use both hands to spread the rice in the center of the nori. Fill in any holes that you may see. Now, the nori is completely covered.
So how did you enjoy it? So the very, very important part of spreading rice is do it evenly without mushing the rice onto the nori. So if you mush it, the rice gets mushy, and then that's the worst thing that you can get. That's the worst taste you can get from sushi. The good sushi needs to be fluffy. The fluffiness comes from fluffy rice. And if you mush it when you're spreading rice onto nori, the old fluffiness you create is gone. And then you just get the very mushy taste of rice ball into your mouth. And that doesn't taste good at all. So this is very, very important part, even before rolling it. Everybody thinks that rolling is the hardest part, but then actually the hardest part and the most important part is before that. So hopefully you got that, what I meant. And then next step is already the rolling part. And then they're very, very small, but yet important part of the techniques that you're going to see. And then Patrick, please play the next one as well.
Pull the bamboo mat towards you and with your fingertips, tuck in the ingredients. Keep the end of the nori aligned with the edge of the bamboo mat. Rolling step number 1. Continue pushing the ingredients in and keep the roll as tight as possible. Do not leave any open space inside. At this point, the edge of the bamboo mat should meet the edge of the other side of the nori. You should be able to see a little open space on the nori. This space is necessary to close the roll in the next step. Rolling step number 2. Open the bamboo mat a little bit and turn the roll 90 degrees. Now the roll is completely closed. Press the roll in with your fingertips to set the shape. If you only press both sides in, the top of the roll is rounded. If you press from the top as well as the sides, the shape of the roll is squared. Remember, press tightly so that roll won't fall apart on you. Rolling step number 3. Move the roll and align the left end of the roll with the left edge of the mat. Push the rice and ingredients in from the left end. This way, you can flatten the end. Do the same for the other end to flatten both ends. Move the roll along with the plastic film onto the cutting board. Dip the tip of the knife into the teizu solution to wet the knife slightly. This will prevent the rice from sticking to the knife. You can remove the plastic film only after cutting. You'll find it's easier to cut with the plastic film on. Place the knife in the center of the roll and proceed to cut it into 2 halves. Use only the tip of the knife to cut the roll. Make sure you do not cut through the plastic film on the bottom. Only cut the roll. Cut the roll evenly into 6 pieces. Here's a pro tip for you. Every time you make a cut, clean the knife with a wet cloth. Otherwise, the knife will not cut very well, and for this, you definitely want a clean, sharp cut.
So, how did you like about our rolling sushi videos? And then the rolling sushi, especially this inside out roll, is the most popular and a common roll sushi in the United States, I believe. But it's actually doesn't exist in Japan. So it's a little bit awkward for me to present this type of sushi at the first one. And then the most popular sushi in Japan is nigiri. And then nigiri, for someone who doesn't know nigiri, it's a sushi rice with the fish on top. That's called type of sushi nigiri. So let's look at the really, really small clips of Japanese, the nigiri sushi. And then that's all about techniques and then which related to type of knives, and then the how you slice the fish, and how you use your hands to create a certain shape which looks beautiful. So let's play that right now.
The knife you need is a Japanese sashimi knife, or alternatively, a Western knife with a long blade. The blade needs to be at least 21 centimeters or 8 inches long. The reason for this is that it's ideal to slice the fish with only one single stroke. If the knife is short, like this, you cannot slice it with just one stroke. And if it takes several strokes, it damages the fish and you will not get a beautiful slice like a master chef would. Therefore, the longer the blade, the easier to slice with one stroke. However, handling a long blade knife is also difficult, especially when you are not experienced. So, if you are a beginner, 21 to 24 centimeters or 8 to 9 inches long would be a good starting point, just to get familiar with it. Now let's start slicing with the fillet from the back side of the salmon. Place the bottom part of the knife on the fish block. Make sure you keep the knife at an angle to cut diagonally. With your left hand, firmly hold the fish in place. Start gliding the knife towards you and slice it with one stroke. Use the whole blade. Now the first corner of the block is sliced off. Clean the knife with a damp cloth to maintain the sharpness. Again, place the bottom of the knife on the fish and hold the fish with your left fingers. The width of the cut surface of the salmon should be 3 to 4 centimeters or 1 to 1.5 inches, which is almost equivalent to 2 fingers wide. Now start slicing. Position your 2 left fingers accordingly to hold the fish. Slide the knife towards yourself. Before you finish slicing completely, stop sliding the knife. Make sure that the bottom of the fish is still not 100% cut off. Then bring the knife 90 degrees to the cutting board, perpendicular, and hold the sliced piece with your left hand like this. Then slice it off. Holding the sliced piece with your hand and the tip of the knife like this, move it to the corner of the cutting board. Clean the knife with a clean, damp towel again. Position the fish so the koba is resting in the crook between your fingers and palm of your left hand. Note, you are not resting the fish in your palm. You are resting the fish on the 4 fingers of your left hand. Next, with your index finger, pick up a little bit of wasabi and smear it down the center of the fish slice. Place the rice on the fish. Then follow the 8 steps, which has been detailed in a previous lesson on how to make a sushi rice ball. Step 1. With your right thumb and index finger, stabilize the rice ball so it does not move, like this. At the same time, push your left thumb into the center of the rice, making an indent. Step 2. Use your left thumb to securely hold the upper end of the rice ball. With your right index finger, press into the rice, making the indent deeper. Note, while doing this, the left hand should be half closed in a cupping motion, like this. Step 3. Uncurl the fingers of your left hand and use your right index finger to roll the fish and rice over to the right. Now the sushi is positioned at the tip of your left fingers. Step 4. With your thumb and middle finger, gently move the sushi back to its original position. Now let's shape the sushi, using the same fingers to squeeze the edges of the fish inwards. Then gently push down, stretching the surface of the fish. These actions ensure that the fish piece will look that much more impressive. At the same time, keep adding pressure to the rice from both sides. You'll find that this straightens both sides of the sushi beautifully. Step 5. Lightly press down with 2 fingers from the top. Remember to keep your fingers straight and don't apply any force. Pressing too hard will ruin the beautiful shape you have begun to achieve. Step 6. Turn the sushi 180 degrees clockwise. Step 7. Repeat step number 5. Grasp the sides with your 2 fingers to straighten both sides of the sushi once again. Step 8. Lightly press down with 2 fingers from the top once again to finish the process.
Okay, how did you like it? Hopefully you guys get a little bit good glimpse of what sushi, the details of sushi making techniques would look like, and then this is just
Well, hi again. We've lost Kazumi, it seems, but she was expressing her gratitude for, well, there she is. Yeah, carry on.
I'm sorry, we're like 1,000 miles away from each other, so like, and that's probably the reason. Now what I wanted to say was like, hopefully many people think about a sushi, like many people say like, oh, it's just a rice over rice and then like fish on top, but it's not like that. It has a lot of details, and then like it cares and attention to the details. So I hope if anyone get interested in learning more, actually it's a great time to start learning Japanese cuisine. So hopefully we can give you more details to some of you. Yeah, and then I want to get back to you to Barton.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate you sharing your wisdom with us, and great content too. It's very clear and concise and elucidates the idea as well. So we talked about rice. In those videos there that we saw, there's nothing to hide behind. Your ingredients have to be good, and they have to be cooked right. And I mean, you're talking about rice with the addition of basic flavors: salty, sweet, sour. You're talking about good quality fish. We've got a number of questions over here, and we're going to start to roll into those now. But how do you source seafood for sushi? What are the, let's talk about safety concerns, which I can address from an American standpoint, but I know you could as well, but also just quality. And also more basically, what fish can be used for sushi? Are there any that just can't be? So let's start with just safety. What are you looking for?
It's very important question, and it's a very, very difficult question to answer, and just like one answer, because everybody is living in a different situation, and everybody has access to different quality of fish. If you're living in California and if you're living in Texas, it's different. So it's really difficult to give you the right answer and a single answer to that question. But then one thing I could say is like there's always the way to eat the rice and eat the fish and then cook the fish for sushi. If it's not the right for if it's not then safe enough for eating raw, then you can find a way to eat it in a different way, even for sushi too. So it's very difficult to give the single answer to that question. But then there are two aspects, two aspects that you have to be careful. One is, of course, the parasites and then the bacteria, and another one is rotting, so that the fish itself is not good enough for sushi. And then the first part, parasite, is the easiest thing to see because you can actually see it. And then if the fish is fresh enough, then most of the fish has the parasite in the gut. And I think Barton, you know better than that. I'm not a chef, but many fish, regardless of the freshness, they have the parasites in their gut. But while they're fresh, the muscle is strong enough and then the hard enough to prevent the parasite is going through the gut and then going into the muscle. So if the fish is fresh enough, you can simply remove the head and the gut and then clean it. The meat is usually safe, but that's not the if it's not the fresh enough, then you can see it actually even with your eyes. And if you see that, then that's something that you should avoid. And then to avoid that completely, you can freeze it. Once you freeze it or cook it, then it's usually safe. And then for the rotting part, it's when it smells fishy, then don't use it for sushi. It's the easiest sign to tell. And if it's a bit slimy or the color is change, then that's also the sign that you should avoid.
Yeah, in most American municipalities, in order to be served raw, it does have to be frozen. Mm-hmm. There are just a few species that are considered safe, meaning that they just don't have mm-hmm. parasites. And those are tuna and farmed salmon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, farmed salmon, yes.
And those are not required to be frozen, but otherwise, and actually a lot of sushi tuna is in fact mm-hmm. frozen.
Yeah, it is.
Just by virtue of the way the global markets mm-hmm. for high-end tuna work. But, just for those of you watching, the things that you want to look for are just buy great quality frozen fish. The bottom line is, frozen seafood used to be really bad. It used to be you froze seafood as a means to stop it from spoiling. But now technology has advanced to the point where we're actually freezing seafood as a means to arrest pristine quality. It's not to prevent going bad. It's actually to stop time at its absolute peak of freshness. And so in some ways, frozen seafood can actually be better quality than what's in the quote unquote fresh case. Just because what's in the fresh case, hey, the clock is ticking, right? I mean, regardless of how fresh it is, the clock is ticking. Frozen seafood, the clock has been stopped. Especially when you look at great sustainable sources, like basically all of the fish that comes out of the sustainable fisheries up in Alaska. There's a lot of great quality product up there that's been frozen. And hey, I mean, that's a really great place to start for sushi. There's also a number of purveyors here. I mean, just in Maine and in Massachusetts, some of my great friends, and Patrick, maybe you could throw these names up. Red's Best Seafood does some online ordering of frozen sushi, sashimi grade packets of delicious quality New England seafood. Also, there's a group called True Fin Seafood that out of here in Portland, Maine, that does Japanese ikejime style harvest on the fish. And that is when the fish are harvested, they are immediately killed, bled, the spinal cord is threaded, and this just sets the fish, kickstarts rigor mortis process and the flavor development process. So anyway, but the safety of things, look for frozen seafood, look for a high quality seafood vendor that you can trust. Kazumi is absolutely right in terms of quality. The seafood should look inspiring. I mean, there's a lot of details there about, looking at the eyes and the skin, and the scales and the moisture and all that. But like, hey, is the person that's selling it to you wearing a clean uniform? Right? Does the place smell good? Does it look good? Is it brightly lit, or is it dark and dungy and cavernous and it looks like they're trying to hide something? Like, follow your instincts here. Like, buy fish from a place that just inspires you. All right.
Yeah,
sorry
to that point
please,
again.
yeah.
Sorry. The frozen fish is a great option. Great option to have, and I will use that a lot. But what's really important is how to defrost it. If you get the good quality frozen fish, and if you defrost in the wrong way, you get the wrong result, like poor result. So it's really important you wrap the frozen fish. Sometimes like you have to wash it with the before while still frozen, completely frozen. You wash it with the salted water and then wipe it and then wrap it with the dry kitchen cloth, paper kitchen cloth, and then wrap it again with the plastic foil and then let it sit in the refrigerator, something like that. So that it has a certain steps to make sure that then you get the best quality after defrosting it.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Great comment there. It goes to my belief that there is no such thing as bad fish. There's only once glorious fish treated poorly. So
it's very sad.
It's not enough to just buy great quality fish. You got to treat it right in the thawing technique. Thank you very much for that. So that question or that answer sort of answers a question from our great friend Star P, who joins us regularly on these events. So, but just to finish out that question for you, Star, the sushi grade label that is on seafood, it actually has no legal meaning that I know of, that I understand. So that's not any threshold that anyone is holding a fishmonger accountable for. I think it's more just a means to communicate informally the fishmonger saying, hey, this is a quality product that we believe in, that we think is good enough and for this quality and for raw use. So that's that. All right. Another great question from our friend Audie. Kazumi, this is for you.
Mm-hmm.
What tools are needed to begin making sushi at home? She's seen sushi making kits, such as and sushi mats, but any specific recommendations?
Great question. Thank you. You need at least two things other than rolling mat. One is the pot or rice cooker to cook rice. The cooking rice properly is really, really important. So they use the rice cooker if you already have it. And if you don't have it, you can use your pot. And then the best pot that you can use for cooking rice is a big pot. It needs to be big because there a lot of water bubbles when you're cooking rice. So like it goes over from the lid oftentimes. So you need a heavy lid, thick pot for cooking. And another thing you need is if you don't have a rice seasoning tub, which is usually wood, then you can use either frying pan or the how do you call it, like the bulky cookware with the flat base, like in the it's.
I like that.
It has
not Tupperware, but
it's not a Tupperware. Yeah, so it needs to be big. It requires a lot of like a flat base to mix rice with the sushi vinegar mix. So that's the two things that you need. And then if you already have a rolling mat, then your kids are good to go for rolling sushi.
Awesome. Now, is there any difference in quality? I mean, are there artisanal, beautiful, hand-forged bamboo rolling mats that are somehow better than others, or is it just as long as it's solidly constructed, there you go? Actually,
I don't know, but then I probably don't see many differences. between the mat, the high quality mat and the not so high quality mat. The result will be very, very similar.
Awesome. All right. Question from Andrea. Is there such a thing as brown sushi rice? Something with more health benefits? Great question.
Yeah. Wow, very interesting. So there's, as long as I know, I think there is no one doing brown sushi rice in Japan, at least for professionally, I don't know anyone doing it. I have never seen it. I never heard of it in Japan. And but then brown rice is indeed healthier. It's brown because it still has the a lot of minerals and then like a nutritious layer outside of the white part of sushi can. That's why it's more nutritious. It's like a whole grain wheat, right? If you remove all of this good part in the layer, then you get the white wheat. But then the whole grain wheat, it has more nutrition. Same for brown rice. But it has the different taste. It has the harder texture. I personally eat brown rice often for my everyday life, but then never used it for sushi. So if you like the taste, please go for it and healthier. And that's up to you.
Yeah, and that this is just because you haven't seen it professionally because it cooks differently when you have the same husk. I mean, all rice starts off brown, and then it's cleaned or polished down to the white kernel. Yeah. So it's just a matter, Andrea, really of how it cooks more than anything. But I regularly see brown rice rolls here. I know that Whole Foods, in fact, you kind of have to look around for white rice sushi if you buy it at Whole Foods. And even so, I've seen brown rice mixed with quinoa, following on health trends, and also just, hey, if there's great nutrition to be had there, and this delivery is great. And I agree with Kazumi that you really have to just like the flavor of it, which is, it's nutty. I mean, it sort of smells and tastes a little bit like pecans with a slight bitter aftertaste, which is really pleasant to me. So, I would second what she said, which is go for it. So, all right. Tim has an interesting question, and I think you've answered some of this already, but he asked really, how difficult is it for a home cook to prepare really good sushi? And that kind of gets to the point of what is bad sushi. I mean, you've talked a lot about what good sushi is, and all the examples you've given have been that, aspirational good. You talked about mushing the rice makes that, you lose the flavor. And aside from, and I'm not just talking about using bad quality fish here. Are there any other pitfalls or things that, how else can you make quote unquote bad sushi?
Okay, so the one pitfall, again, quite common pitfalls that I see is using too much rice or ingredients for rolls. So many people don't know how much rice to be used for one roll. So oftentimes they take just like as much as they can and then put it in on the nori and spread it. And if you still can see the holes, then take on more rice and then put it to cover the holes. And then that's how usually people get a lot of rice. And if it's like inside out roll, it just gets bigger. It still tastes okay, but it becomes too big to eat with one.
Kazumi, have you seen the size of burritos that we serve in America?
That's true.
I don't know if you know this, but Americans like big.
And then again, the problem happens when it's not inside out roll. If the nori is outside, then it doesn't close. Or even if it closes, when you cut it, it explodes. So that's a very, very common pitfalls that you can see from our students. Awesome.
Well, Tim, I think, as I said at the outset of this presentation today, I have very limited experience with sushi. I appreciate the details and the finesse and the elegance of it. But to your question, it seems to require a high level of skill and knowledge that the average person would find hard to attain. Yes, to be a sushi master. but to make sushi that you're going to enjoy, I mean, you've heard sort of all of the critical control points here today. Buy the right rice, cook it mindfully, and just pay attention to the recipe and the process. Don't just think about it the way we typically do is, oh, it's just rice. No, just understand that it is the foundational ingredient here. Buy great quality fish, and I think just have fun making it. I mean, I don't think you're going to make something that you don't enjoy. So I would say, to become a sushi master, watch the movie Hero Dreams of Sushi and recognize that it's going to take you 40 years to become a sushi master. To make sushi that you're going to enjoy, you know what? I'll bet you can probably pull it off tonight. I think of it like wine, almost. To be a master sommelier, it's going to take you a lot of drinking, a lot of money, and a lot of time and a lot of talent. To enjoy a glass of wine? No, it just takes opening yourself up to it. So maybe Kazumi would think I'm ridiculous for that analogy there. But
I like that analogy.
All right. From Judith, another great friend of ours who regularly appears. Really great question. She has never, unfortunately, she says, had the pleasure of eating sushi in Japan. Are there differences between the sushi that's served there and here in America? And I'm assuming that she is speaking about the sort of the broad market sushi, not super high-end, Michelin-starred, multiple Michelin-starred sushi restaurants such as in New York, but rather you just sort of your typical casual sushi restaurant. How is it different than what you would find?
I think I can think of two things. One is the types of sushi. So in the United States or the other countries outside of Japan, the rolls is the mainstream of sushi, right? And if you think about it, if you ask someone about a sushi, the first thing comes up in their mind is probably rolled sushi. And that's opposite in Japan. The nigiri sushi is more mainstream in Japan. So if you order sushi without saying anything, that usually you get nigiri. So the types of sushi is different between United States and Japan. And another thing I can think of is the types of or the variety of fish that you can get. So like in the United States, if you go to normal like a middle end sushi restaurant, then you can, if you think about the nigiri, types of nigiri sushi fish, you can probably go for, 5, 6, 7, 8, maximum 10 types, I guess, right? But then for, if you go to Japan and if you go to like a low to middle end, middle class restaurant, you get 20, 30 different types of fish for sushi, for nigiri. So that's their two main differences, I can say.
Awesome. All right. We got a great question from Shruti, another one of our friends that joins us regularly. Nice to see you, friend. Thanks for joining again. And this references, I think, a lot of the Ruby audience, which a lot of people very interested in plant-based whole food plant-based cooking. And he asked and says that he's been a little trepidatious to try seafood because of, or to try making sushi because of the safety of the raw aspect of it. So he asked, could you recommend some vegetable preparations, also some cooked seafood preparations?
Good questions. So the vegetable part. So Patrick, can you bring some pictures of nigiri that you can bring? Yeah. So you can go through it. So this is like the kombu with some pickled the vegetables, or even like in the sakura cherry blossom petal, the pink one, and so on. So it's something that you don't usually use for sushi. And this is tomato or paprika, I think. And then it is prepared with some marinade. And so it already has some taste with it. And then the next one is this is a paprika. And then you can be creative. So like don't try to replicate the taste of fish. You can be creative. The next one is a type of vegetable that you can find in Japan. It is crunchy, again, refreshing flavor. So this is again like nothing to do with the fish that you use for sushi. Nothing. It's not the substitute. It's a totally creative idea. So and the next one is the mushrooms, type of mushrooms, and then that is already kind of seasoned and grilled. I guess it's was some teriyaki sauce or something like that. So again, be creative, and then and don't forget the fish part. Like you can create your own taste. You can create your own texture with the vegetable that you like. Be creative. Don't be afraid. The sushi has a capacity to accept many different textures and flavors. So be creative. And then about cooked fish, eel is a very very popular cooked fish for sushi. If I think about the traditional options, and the other ones, the tuna is the tinned tuna is often used, but you can also make tuna, cooked tuna as well. And then these things are like the two things that came up in my mind. But then again, be creative. Don't be afraid making mistakes, and it wouldn't go too bad. And the sushi has a capacity to make everything very tasty. So don't worry about it.
Yeah, Shruti, I would second that, which is again, like I'm hard pressed to really think about how you'd go so wrong that you wouldn't enjoy it. I mean, it might be a little sloppy or something when you go to cut it if you use cooked salmon, cooked tuna, cooked cod, whatever it is, etc. But you know what? I mean, that's technique. That's learning how, okay, well, as we do in America, maybe you need just a very small strip of mayonnaise in there, like a Kewpie mayonnaise, to help bind it together. Mix it with a spiced mayonnaise as we do with like spicy tuna rolls. You can do that with cooked. Maybe even a little, line of cream cheese, something in there to create some structural integrity. So yeah, just go for it. And you know what? Yeah, it might get a little messy when you cut it, but learn from that and think about what you could do better next time. And the chances are that you're just going to take a bite of it and be like, oh God, this is terrible, are so slim that if you're using good ingredients that you like anyway, it's going to be a challenge to mess it up. All right. Gabriella says that she's got a small sushi business, but she acknowledges that sort of a traditional sushi in Japan is different than what is typically served here, and she'd like to take a course on it. Well, Gabriella, good for you, because Japanese Cuisine Academy has the course for you, and that's one of the things that we're looking to do by introducing Kazumi here. So please look up her course that she shared a little bit with us. From Brenda, she asks if we could talk about the sustainability of amebe, and I don't think I pronounced that correctly. Kazumi, could you talk about what amebe sweet shrimp, just how it's used, and then I'll talk about the sustainability.
Yes, that's a very, very specific question, and then I would say so. For sushi, there are two types of two ways of presenting the serving shrimp for sushi, and one way is to cook it and boil it, and then cut it and open it, and then put it on their sushi, or insert it in their maki, or the raw shrimp. And then this raw shrimp is usually a type of shrimp called amaebi. So that's the what I know about amaebi. And then maybe you can add something, Barton?
Sure. I don't know what species exactly is used in Japan, but I do know that what I believe is The difference here is that shrimp is typically, what we consider shrimp is typically warm water shrimp, white, brown, pink, tiger shrimp. Those 4 species, that's typically what's farmed, that's what's caught in the wild, and that's what your shrimp cocktail is. Sweet shrimp are northern shrimp or cold water shrimp. And the best sustainable source for those across the Pacific Northwest and California, but specifically up in Alaska, the spot prawn fishery, as well as the side stripe fishery. Both of those are great options. And when in season can be found around. You can find them frozen as well, a great quality product frozen. But those are even shipped live by some very high-end specialty purveyors like Regalis Foods, Regalis, a really great high-quality, the highest-end ingredient market that I know of. But check those out, Alaskan spot prawns or side stripe shrimp. All right. Pilar, another friend, asked a question that she thinks a lot about farm fish and wild fish, has a background herself coming from fishing community. And she asks, Kazumi, whether you used farm fish in sushi in Japan or in Germany, where you are.
Yes, that's a great question. Thank you. And then actually, in Japan, where I grew up, is famous for the farming fish, which is typically a type of fish, the red snapper. So when I was working in Tokyo, when I went to a supermarket and then looked for the red snapper, then it says the name of my town, my hometown, because that's where it grew up. It was farmed. So we do use a lot of the farmed fish in Japan for sushi, sashimi, for other reasons too. So yes, we use that. In Germany, yes, as well. The salmons are often farmed and they're came from Norway. And then the sea bass, sea bream, they are also often farmed as well. And then that's what we usually use for sushi here in Northern Europe as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Pilar, about 55% of all seafood eaten globally is in fact farmed. There's more wild seafood produced than farmed seafood, but wild capture seafood has a whole host of different uses. It's not always directed towards human consumption. So the amount of food, the seafood consumed, majority of it is in fact farmed, and that is going to be common the world over. And I know that you've expressed some concerns about it before, and there are rightly some concerns about sustainability and qualities of farm seafood, but there's also industry leaders that are proving that we can do it really right, aspirationally right, creating products that are, out of this world delicious. So bottom line is farm seafood is part of every equation pretty much at this point. All right. Last couple of questions, and then Kazumi, I have a question for you. Okay. I need some help with some ingredients that I've got. But Ingela asked tips on making sushi look more appetizing, beautiful. What are the important techniques to master? She says that she typically makes it look like a mess. Now, your great videos talked about the nigiri, talked about the rolls. So maybe in the brief amount of time that we have left, talk about what else is on the plate. Because the art of presentation is huge, and there's also soy sauce and ginger and wasabi and other ways to, that accompany it.
Yeah, that's the presentation is really important as well. And then when we present sushi and in a typical way, in the Japanese way, we keep it simple. And the color contrast is very, very important. But then that's not always the case for the Western rolls. Those rolls itself are very colorful. So that's a little different story. But if you want to do it in a little bit of Japanese way, traditional way, we keep it simple. We use the dark color plate. It's better than white color because the sushi rice itself is white. And if you put a white thing on the white plate, it doesn't look very stunning out. So we recommend to use a darker color plate. And then the square shape is easier to handle the decoration and the allocation of the sushi. So that's another tip. And then other thing is like put something green underneath. And then we use a lot bamboo leaf often, but then anything green underneath, like in some leaves from your garden or something like that, is already good enough. And then wash it well and then put it underneath. And that green color pleases the eyes of your guest, and then that makes the sushi stand out more. And then at the end, how neatly you lay out the sushi pieces is again very, very important. The line needs to be aligned. Every line needs to be aligned. If you put in the sushi rolls like a zigzag, it doesn't work. Just like make the alignment perfectly, then your sushi already looks much more professional and neatly.
Awesome. Well, and as you learned through the techniques earlier, that when you make the rice right, when you use the right amount of rice, when you roll it at the right tightness and sort of thickness and all of that, and then when you use a sharp knife, those are really the techniques to prevent the mess rather than trying to, make it better afterwards. But you know what? If you just go ahead and make a mess, I'm just going to be an American here. Why don't you just put a cilantro leaf on top of it? Right? If it's that much of a mess that, you don't really want to present it as is, just put a garnish on it. Maybe this is blasphemous. Well, I know it's blasphemous to traditional sushi, but if it comes down to you enjoying it and feeling proud of it and wanting to serve it or not, then hey, just take some liberties with it. Shruti also has a question very quickly about using the plastic wrap with the slicing, which goes to the presentation aspect, which helps hold it together. Can you do it without the plastic?
Sorry, I didn't get the question. Sorry, the plastic foil, we use that.
The plastic foil on the rolls. And then in your video, you showed the chef slicing through the plastic. Can you do it without the plastic so as to avoid any contamination?
Of course you can remove it first and then cut it. But then if you don't cut it through completely, then you can remove it perfectly too. So that's actually another tip that was already explained in the video if anyone missed it. But of course you can do it without it, and then it's just like easier to handle the sticky rice with this plastic foil.
All right, last question is from Barbara about seafood restaurants and business model in Ohio. And I can't say that I do have any recommendations on that. I'm not familiar with the restaurant that you named, I'm sorry to say. But I couldn't provide anything that an online resource couldn't. All right, Kazumi, last questions here. So deep in the recesses of winter here in Maine, which gets very dark, I was browsing the internet for inspiration, and I thought that I went to my JapanesePantry.com, and I just bought a bunch of stuff. I may have been drinking some sake. I may have been drinking a lot of sake. Who knows? Anyway, I bought a lot of things, and I actually don't know what some of them are anymore because I can't find the receipt. So I've got bottles that I can't read that I need you to tell me what they are.
Sure.
All right. Here we go. Kazumi, what is this?
Okay, can you show me a little bit more to the center, close to your face? Yeah. So I believe that's a type of soy sauce. It says shiro tamari. So shiro means white, and the tamari means tamari soy sauce. So it's type of. I assume it's a lighter color than normal soy sauce. Oh God.
Oh, it's delicious. Yeah. So what do I use that for? White soy sauce.
That's a very good question. Actually, I have never. I did it. This is my first time to seeing it. Yeah. See, it's much lighter color. So these light colored soy sauce is best for something like that. You want to have the taste of like in soy sauce, but you don't want to have a color of the dark color. So like in Japan, like if you cook vegetables with soy sauce, it usually gets very dark if you use soy sauce. It tastes great, but it gets darker. So that in that case, you can use that. You can give the dash of it, and it get the flavorful taste from the soy sauce, but then it doesn't color very dark.
Cool. All right. So I've got 2 other soy sauces here, and I know soy is we could talk for days about soy sauce alone. It is an art as much as making wine is. But I've got these 2.
Okay.
What's the difference between them?
Okay, the other one looks a little the brown one, the brown sticker one. Okay, let's just show you. So the one on your left hand, the one with the brown sticker, it is. I think it's a normal dark color soy sauce, but then probably it looks very artisanal product, so it must be a good quality, but a normal type of dark soy sauce, I believe. And then the other one, this one, it says like a sashimi soy sauce. So it says for sashimi. So the sashimi soy sauce is usually like it's a little bit sweeter, more a stronger taste, a stronger flavor, and then a thicker texture.
Okay.
And I think that's a normal dark color soy sauce, and that you.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. There's such a difference between them. And I've been fumbling my way through. I mean, you can see I've used a bit of this one, some of this one. I've been fumbling my way through just figuring out which one does better with what.
Yeah.
Because it's just not an ingredient that I have fluency in.
Yeah.
I can't even read the labels.
So these sashimi soy sauce is usually darker, sweeter, stronger taste. So the usually you can pair it with like stronger flavor meats, like lamb, pork, like in beef, or it's like a red wine. Like if you cook like some meat with red wine, then you need a stronger flavor to match with the stronger flavor of red wine. But then this is something like that.
Okay, so this is my red wine. This is my fish wine, and this is my vegetable wine.
Yeah, something like that.
Cool. Well, I got to figure out how to use this one because I've got a gallon of it. So,
yeah.
All right.
You have a lot to experiment.
I really appreciate you. I appreciate you sharing your expertise and your charming, wonderful personality with us. You're so generous to make time for us, and
it was great being here.
Really enjoyed it. So, yeah. So everybody, please check out the Japanese Cuisine Academy. Kazumi's wonderful classes she has there. Learn more about all things Japanese cuisine. Join me again here at our regular Tuesday, every other Tuesday events. We've got a couple of fun ones coming up, including one on garlic, which was very heavily requested. But we always welcome your comments on what you would like to see in these events, any topics you'd like covered. Also, we have office hours, open office hours, hosted every other week, I believe, with Eric, Ken, and every now and then myself. And hey, I really appreciate you. As I said at the outset, cooking is love, food is love. It is an act of kindness. The world needs more of that. And that you are here with us means that, well, you participate in that. And so I appreciate all that you add to this world.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Bon appetit. And we'll see you again soon. Thank you, Kazumi. Thank you all.
Thank you all.